Hey everybody, welcome and thank you for listening to this episode of Marriage Therapy Radio. My name is Zach Brittle. I am here in my house right now, but I just got back from San Francisco, where when I was there, I did a lot of cool things. I just about finished my book. I recorded a couple of podcasts with a gal named Liz Moody, who I'm excited to share those with you. I went to some cool places. I drove in a car that was that had no driver, one of those Waymo cars. I just wanted to try that out. That was intriguing. Because at first, I was like, is it safe? Well, it seems really safe. It's definitely safe to drive around in a car that no one else is in. The car is very cautious and comfortable, and it's nice to you. It talks to you in like a computer voice. But it was actually really lonely. It was really lonely. I was only in the car for maybe, 10 minutes at a time. And I just felt like, I don't know. I felt gross. Like, I like when people are around. I like when there's humans, even if I'm not talking to them, which I did plenty of Ubering this weekend and I didn't talk to anybody. But I don't know. I'm pro efficiency, I suppose, but I'm also pro humanity. And that was a little bit of a wild experience. Yeah, I was there for, 4 days. Last time I was in San Francisco, I don't know if I told you this, but I've escaped from Alcatraz 5 times. Which means they take you out on a ferry and they drop you off right next to the island, and you swim back into Fisherman's Wharf. First time I did it, it's about 2 miles. It's almost a 2-mile swim. But the first time I did a giant zigzag. So I must have swam, 18 miles or something, because I went back and forth, back and forth. I did not know how to swim in a straight line because I wasn't looking. I was looking for the black line on the bottom of the pool, which is not there because it's in open water and there's sharks in it, kind of, but not really. But I was swimming in a like back and forth zigzag line. And it took me a while to learn how to swim in open water, which requires you to be looking at your target constantly looking at your target and recalibrating over and over again. Somewhere in there is a metaphor about how you're supposed to live your life, where if you don't look up with some consistency to see where you're headed, it's easy to get off track. I remember too, I did it 5 times because I was continuing to try and get under a certain time. I wanted to get under 40 minutes. And I remember the last time I did it, I was, 2/3 of the way through the swim, and I was at this spot in the course where I felt like if I wasn't there on time, I wasn't going to get it into 40 minutes. And I got really angry. I just got really mad because I trained real hard. It was one of those periods where I had not had a drink for 90 days. I was like, I am going to get this time. I'm going to swim in a straight line. I'm going to get there. And I just picked my head up and I looked around and I saw where I was at and I knew that I wasn't going to make it. And then I just decided, well, I might as well try. So I put my head down and I just swam as hard as I could for the rest of the race, another third or so. And I had no idea what time I was going to get in. There aren't like clocks that you can check as you keep going, like on a marathon or something. But got out of the water. I stopped my watch and 37:35:06, I think it was 37:35:06. I still remember the time. And it was very cool. It was a very cool day and a very cool experience. I immediately went out and had a drink. And then I had several more. My memory of being in San Francisco is pretty cloudy, but not this time. This time I just got to hang out and do some writing. And one day I walked maybe a 5-mile loop around the city because I had different things I had to go to. I was meeting some clients, and then I had to go write for a little while at this spot that I picked out. And then I had to go to the UPS store, and then I had to go back to my hotel. It took me a minute, but it was nice looking at architecture and art and just kind of appreciating the finer details when you're just paying attention. Again, kind of keeping your head up, looking where you're going, trying to make sure that you are on track. I don't know. That's a little bit of rambling about my trip to San Francisco. I also, while I was there, recorded an episode with James and Molly Christensen, who are fascinating. They are a married couple. They are both therapists, and they have been in a lot of therapy. It's very, very, very interesting to listen to therapists talk about being in therapy, particularly couples therapists talk about being in couples therapy and what they learned and what worked and what didn't work. They were very generous with their story and with their emotions. I think both of them allowed us to see their tears, which was I was grateful for. It's just really rewarding to see people who are doing good work, and I was excited to talk to them. I'm excited to share this interview with you. This is a very cool conversation. Stick around. Tell me a little bit about James and Molly. What are you guys up to? What's your story?
So we're marriage therapists here in Sacramento, and like our kind of story is I was a pilot in the Air Force, and we did the military thing for Yeah, I mean, 22 years of marriage before. And then I retired, became a therapist, and Molly is on her way. Well, she's a therapist. She's still under supervision, so she followed me a couple years later.
Right
So
on.
we're just super
Cool.
passionate about marriage therapy specifically.
Yeah. Do you know why? Why are you passionate about marriage therapy specifically?
Because it took us so long to get good help. I don't know if that's why. I'm just passionate about it. I have no reason for that. But we really did struggle for many years trying to improve our marriage and failing miserably despite doing everything we could. You know, all the people we reached out to, all the books we read, and it basically was useless, sometimes harmful. So we ended up finding solutions that worked, and that really drove my passion to be like, okay, there are solutions that work. Why is the predominant approach so ineffective, and what's going on here, and what can I do about it?
Yeah. I saw in your bio that you think that you've been in therapy together like 100 times.
At least.
Oh, thanks.
Over 100 times.
We know, like 7+ years, right?
6-7 years that we've been in therapy almost weekly.
6-7 years in therapy, almost weekly. Same therapist?
No. Like we're on what?
First
Number 8 right now.
5 years, we had probably 6 therapists. We would always get to a point where, honestly, I was pretty hesitant to do therapy. I was pretty resistant to the whole factor. And he would not see the results that he wanted, and so he would look for another therapist.
Okay.
In the beginning, it was very much him trying to get me on board, and I was very like, stop shoving it down my throat. I don't want to do this.
Can we talk about that for a bit?
Sure.
Yeah. What do you know about why you were reluctant to do therapy?
Why I was resistant?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I grew up thinking that therapy was just for crazy people, like people who just had that was the mentality that I was brought up with. It's totally wrong and messed up, but that was how I was brought up.
Man, I was the same way. I thought I used to think that anybody who went to therapy was crazy. And now I think anybody who doesn't go to therapy is crazy.
Exactly. I always tell people, I'm like, I think every person in the entire world should be in therapy because it just helps you become a better version of yourself. But it took me a really long time to get to that point. I think a lot of it also had to do with he kind of jumped on the bandwagon first, and there were a lot of things he wanted to change about our marriage, and most of those things had to do with me. And so he kind of started trying to actively pursue or make me interested in what he was interested in, and it was sort of my resistance. It was me choosing my own path, like not letting him dictate where I went and what I did. So it was kind of my rebellious streak, like, screw you, I can't, like, I'm not going to do what you want me to do just because you want me to do it. And it wasn't until we found it wasn't until about 5 years into it that I felt heard and seen and listened to with our therapists. And I felt validated in the sense that I'm not crazy. The things that I've been tracking in him are accurate. That was a huge moment for me, that I started to really invest my efforts and time into therapy, realizing that, okay, this is actually there might be change. Because before that, it had always just been, I was the problem.
Interesting. And if I'm tracking with you, you said about 5 years in, which is also about 5 therapists in, or 3 or 4 therapists in at that point?
5 or 6,
them a little bit?
I don't even remember all of them.
What can you, and James, please weigh in at any time. What can you tell me about why therapy didn't work?
We are an exceptionally difficult couple to work with.
Okay. That's
We're
part of
tough.
the variable for sure.
You know, like since we're now both couples therapists, there's a very wide range of difficulty, and some couples are delightful and easy to work with, and some couples are extremely hard. And we were all the way over on the hard side. We were just really difficult to work with. And so it took us many years to find a therapist who could handle us.
Molly, is that what you think?
Yeah, that tracks. I still to this day think it took an exceptional therapist to handle him.
I think she's easy to handle.
I was always the people pleaser, right? I was the one that smoothed over emotions and made things better, and he was not. And so I always felt like I was the good one, even though I know now that like our parts in this dynamic are equal. Like we both had things that needed to change. But in my mind, it was always, he was the one that was doing things and he was thinking the same thing about me. So it got to a point where we had a therapist who was able to call us both out on what we were both doing and kind of help us see that we started to look at ourselves instead of each other.
Interesting. Your first therapist that didn't work out, did you fire them or did they fire you?
We fired them.
We fired all of our therapists.
He fired them all.
Yeah. And what's that about? Like the same thing? You just weren't getting the results that you were looking for?
Yeah, I mean,
did you own that it was did you know at that point by then that you were the problem?
Oh, no, this was years down the line. I was definitely not the problem.
The therapist was a problem. I was a problem.
Anybody other than me. So, yeah, we did like a year and a half with our first therapist, didn't we? Like a year and a half, and just tons of sessions and literally no progress. I mean, and we eventually both, the thing that broke the camel's back is he's like, okay, he's like, why don't you come in for individual sessions? And so I go in for individual session and he basically validates all my concerns and validates my view that Molly's the problem. She goes in the next week for an individual session and he does the same thing to her. And then we both talk about, we're like, wait a second, like that doesn't make any sense. What is this guy doing? And so that's when we quit.
Right on. And then what clicked for you that you started to be able to get it right or started to be able to see the progress that you were looking for? Did something, was there an aha moment or a specific pivot at all for either one of you?
So we after 5 years or so, we found a therapist who uses the approach that we now use, which is called the crucible approach. And she was very capable of keeping up with us in session. And so we're pretty good at manipulation, and she was too strong to be able to be manipulated, and she was able to handle me specifically. And we did 2 years with her, and most of that time focused on her helping me see myself more clearly. She helped Molly too. She didn't put nearly as much effort into helping Molly as helping me, and she had her reasons for that. So it was really helpful.
And that was the aha moment for me, was when we went and did an intensive with her for 3 days, 4 days, for 2 hours a day,
3 hours a day. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was in that moment, like in those sessions, that the way she worked was, the way we like to try and work is calling things out in the moment instead of like, well, he did this back this and this and this, right? And she could identify the patterns that we were having in that moment. Like, well, you just said this, but you're doing this right now. Like helping us see how we were interacting in that time. And it was like so validating to me, because I would feel something was off and she would be able to say, this is what I see in him. And I wasn't the one prompting it. I wasn't like, he did this to me and he did this. And like, because before that, I felt kind of like I was going insane. Like it was kind of crazy making, honestly, is because I was like, well, I don't know. Am I just being judgmental? Am I being one-sided? Am I being biased? And go talk to my friends and they'd say this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, that's not really a fair audience to go to, because they're clearly Team Molly. Right? Yeah. And so I would be telling these things and they'd be saying this and I'd be thinking these things, and I didn't know whether I was just actually being the problem or whether what I was tracking was accurate. And so when she was able to sit down with us both and on her own identify the same things that I had been seeing, that was the moment that I was like, okay, this might actually work. Like we might actually be able to do this.
Well, I always tell people, I think couples therapy is a different discipline even than individual therapy. I mean, I have an individual therapist. She's amazing, and I can't do what she does, where she like gets inside and helps me understand my feelings and starts to draw some lines, and that's all really critical. But couple relationships are about behavior. How do you show up? What do you actually do? And you can feel things up and down, but if you're not actually changing behavior, then I can see how that would be really frustrating. It's frustrating for clients. It's frustrating for therapists when couples don't change behavior because their feelings are in the way all the time, So James, what did you have to face? Like, what was your thing that you had to work on for 2 years before it cracked open?
I mean, basically you could just say I had to face narcissism. I mean, you could call it lots of different things, but that's a decent name for it. And
it's a very, very sexy word right now. Everybody likes to use it. How are you using it?
They like to use it on other people. They don't like to use it on themselves. But yeah, that was basically it. I mean, I was extremely manipulative. I had a sense of superiority, and I didn't care about anyone, and especially I didn't really care about Molly. And so that's basically the three components of narcissism right there. And
One more time, 1, 2, 3.
Well, there's a fourth one too, but I call it so fragility, which is you can't take criticism, right? Superiority, you think you're better than everybody. Indifference is not caring about people. And then just an ability to manipulate, which is necessary. So like a narcissist, because of the fragility. So if you're fragile, then you can't take any negative feedback from anyone, and you need external validation all the time. And so you invent this, or you manipulate reality to try to get that. And so you make it seem like you're better than you are. You make it seem like other people are worse than they are. And you create this false reality that feeds your need for validation. So that's kind of what I call like the 4 components of narcissism sometimes.
Well, and then how did you break free? What was the breakthrough for you? Are we still waiting? I mean, like
we're getting there. Yeah, I mean, okay. So what I did, couples therapy is much more effective than individual therapy. First, okay. So our therapist would watch the way I handle myself in session and give me immediate feedback on what I was doing in the moment. I recorded every session and I would listen to it 3 or 4 times between sessions. And I would be so angry. I'd be, how dare she say such things to me? And then I would listen to it again. I'd be like, oh, but she does have 1 point. And then I listened to it a third time, be like, oh, actually she has 3 points. And by the 4th time, I'd be like, yeah, she's basically right. And so it took a lot of work actually. But I would listen to my voice in the recording and I'd be like, wait, that's not what I sounded like, but that is what I sound like in recording. And so it was like adjusting my mind to see what was actually happening.
You know, it did take a lot of work, and people ask me a lot. Maybe they ask you, how long are we going to need to do therapy, or how often should we come in, or something like that. And I say, it's kind of like walking into a gym and saying, how long till I can bench press my body weight? You know, how far apart are you? How motivated are you outside of the gym? You know, do you have the fundamental form capacity that will help you do that? Some people don't, right? If they have let's say they have narcissistic personality disorder and it's a mood disorder and it's untreated and they have to struggle with the actual capacity for that sort of thing before they can start to do relationship work. And that, you know, whether that's ADHD or cancer or alcoholism, who knows? But, you know, it does take work in between the work, right? You got to sit there and listen to yourself 3, 4 times and go, oh, I'm learning.
It's been quite a journey.
And his goals were lofty. They aren't like go to the gym and bench press my body weight. It's go to the gym and like be a top-notch bodybuilder who can bench weight everyone's
Win
body
Iron
weight.
Man.
Like it was like this idealistic, thinking where it was just very much like, I want Outlander relationship. This is how I want our marriage to be. And that was very overwhelming to me because I was like, what the crap? Like feeling steamrolled. And I didn't believe that relationships could be like that. Honestly, I still don't believe that's 100% accurate representation. It was scripted by someone, this is a play, but I really had the inability, I couldn't see anything other than what we had because that was what it was modeled to me. That was what I grew up with, was a very utilitarian, transactional relationship where the man was supposed to just make the wife happy. And if he didn't, then he was a jerk and he got to sleep in the bathtub, And so I just kind of assumed that role when we were early on in our marriage. And, I look back at it now and it was cruel, but that was what I knew.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn to unknow that.
How did you learn to unknow that?
To be able to see that pattern was the first step. I had to be able to see that that's what I was doing. And that was a lot of humility in accepting and being able to see the ugly in me. Like it was really hard because it was easy to see the ugly in my family or my parents or my husband. It was easy to see the ugly in the people around me, but to actually self-reflect and see, oh crap, I do that.
Mm-hmm. That's very brave. Are Are you all fixed now?
No, of course not. Therapy is again, it's a process. It's an ongoing thing. I don't think we'll ever be all fixed, right? But we're more aware of what we're doing, and we're more capable of like taking a step back and not being so reactive. That was a huge thing in my thing too. Is I was super reactive, and so he would say something, and I would just get flooded, and I would just yell or walk away. I was super avoidant, super avoidant. Like having a conversation about sex or about relationship, boom, shut down. I was completely, nope, I'm not having anything to do with this. I all of a sudden had to clean out the closet or busy myself so that I had some reason why I couldn't engage in that.
Do you have any idea what that makes you good at? Like these avoidance skills or these skills that make it harder to be in marriage. Like I would imagine you being a little bit narcissistic made you an effective member of the military. Like you kind of, this is how you do the military. You climb the situation. You can tell me about that. I'd be interested to hear. But Molly, do you know like this other strategies that you had that made it harder to be in a relationship? Did it make you good at anything else?
Oh, I am incredibly focused and able to accomplish all kinds of things. I have many hands-on skills. I just can put my mind to something and do it. It also, I'm trying to think how else, like, I'm also really good at reading a room. Because I had to learn growing up too, like, okay, is this a safe emotion to show? Is this a safe thing to be? And so I would really good at managing other people's emotions. I'm really good at, being able to decide, oh, is this a good thing to say? Am I being too loud? And am I being I don't know, just kind of, I'm a people person because I call it my superpower. Like I can. So.
Yeah, I mean, I found this overall. Like, we have these skills that we learn, and we denigrate them in therapy because they keep us from intimacy. But it's hard because they're actually part of who we are and part of what makes us amazing and capable in other areas of our lives. And I think we just have to kind of respect that they can be in parallel, and that sometimes you got to tell one of those guys, you got to tell the Air Force guy, hey, not your turn. You got to sit down, and it's time for you to be this other thing. Do you have your own version of that, James?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar. I'm incredibly sensitive to other people's emotions, and so like I can read people really quickly, and I know all of the tricks of manipulation. And so like I've never been in a therapy office and said, "Well, I've never seen that one," So it's I know.
You mean as an actual therapist?
As a therapist, like, just because I've done them all before. Like there's only
do they say?
So many
you can't bullshit a bullshitter or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been there and done that, and I'm like, okay, I can see exactly what you're doing, and it's it's still difficult, but at least I can see what's happening, and that's really important in couples therapy because about half couples come in, at least one of the person is going to be intensely set on manipulating the therapist, trying to get the therapist on their side and trying to pretend that the other person is the problem and all that kind of stuff, and so it's really important to choose the most important problem in the relationship and not get sidetracked onto something that's not the most important problem.
I don't know if I have that same experience, or at least if I would define it the same way, that at least one person is going to be trying to manipulate the therapist. How does that show up for you, or how do you sniff that out, or how do you define that when you see it?
Well, it's only about half the time, like half the couples, that's the case. But yeah, what I'm seeing is when someone comes in and is trying to make the other person look bad, I would say that's a form of manipulation. And there's a whole range and spectrum to that, but it's pretty common. I tend to work with really high conflict couples where there's a lot of antagonism between them, and there's a lot of positioning and maneuvering going on, like trying to make it seem like the only thing that needs to happen is this other person needs to change.
Yeah. Do the two of you collaborate in your work together? Do you see, like, do you tag team couples at all?
We haven't yet. I'm still an associate, so I'm still under supervision, and so I work at a nonprofit right now.
Got it.
He sends me clients that need sliding scale or to take insurance type things. So he will send me some clients, but we haven't collaborated on in anyone yet.
Do we plan to?
I was wondering if you had like a like a philosophy or a shared like approach. You mentioned something called the crucible approach, which I've never heard of. But then you also said, James, I work with high conflict couples. Do you have what's your theory or philosophy on conflict that people should know about? Like how does that go?
The underlying theory is that conflict is good, and most couples need more conflict.
Okay.
The key is to have conflict without anger. And so Molly and I are both extremely conflict avoidant. And so we did the first 20 years of our marriage with basically no overt conflict and all sorts of like subdued conflict under the surface that was really harmful. But we almost never told each other what we really thought. We would go years without telling each other what we really thought. And when we did tell each other what we really thought, we were really mean about it. And so what we didn't do is, can I tell you what I really think in the kindest way possible and with true love in my heart and still say what I really think? And that's something that neither of us knew how to do, and we're still learning to do right now. But that's what I think is the key. More conflict with less anger and less antagonism.
That's an interesting sales pitch. It's probably not something you want on your website. Hey, come see me. I'm going to help you have more conflict.
Yeah, people don't want that. They want the conflict to go away, but two different people living together, conflict is inevitable. There's going to be conflict, and you either deal with it or you don't. But when we deal with it in an angry way or a mean way, it makes more conflict, not less. And so to resolve the conflict, you have to be able to face it and track yourself as you do it.
Right on. Molly, you used one of my favorite words, differentiation. How are you using it?
Just the idea of kind of tagging on what he just said is that, can you be okay if the other person's disappointed in you? Can you be okay if they're angry with you, if they think bad of you? Can you still function at a higher level despite how they're functioning? And that's kind of the idea that we bring into therapy, is that if you can do that, then growth will happen, right? And it's not about getting him to back off. It's about, can I be okay saying what's true to me? Like, I want you to back off. I don't see things the way you see things, and then not crumble when he pushes back. Like if he says, well, you're just trying to avoid this. You're just not wanting to do this. And I can look at myself, self-reflect and say, is that true? Is there not truth? If it's not truth, then am I okay holding on to myself and not crumbling to his pressure?
I think you guys are probably a little bit younger than me, but do you remember transactional analysis? It was pretty famous in like the 70s, and it was all based on this idea of I'm okay, you're okay. Like that was the premise. And so you had four expressions of that, which is I'm okay, you're okay. I'm okay, but you're not okay. I'm not okay, but you are okay, and then neither one of us is okay. And what you're describing is this idea of I'm okay. And if you're okay, that's great. I'm okay, you're okay, that's amazing. I'm okay, you're not okay. I guess there's a version of that that's really contemptuous, like I'm okay, but you're not okay. But I'm going to stay okay even if you're not okay, is really the work. And I guess my question is, in your experience of doing couples therapy, and I don't know that you've confirmed me one way or the other whether you've done any individual therapy, but do you feel like the work of differentiation is easier or harder in the context of couples therapy?
I think couples therapy is a lot more effective, much more effective for building differentiation, because differentiation is a relational concept. So if an individual comes to me and says, I want to get more differentiated, we're going to have to basically use my relationship with them to build differentiation. That's not ideal. If a couple comes to me, then I have their relationship with each other, and I can reflect and say, this is what I see you doing. Let's see. This is how I see you positioning your wife right now in relation to you. And a more differentiated, I don't really use the word differentiation, but basically a more differentiated approach would be, can you treat your wife as if she were an equal and not as if she were inferior to you, which is what happens a lot of the time. And that's a much more differentiated approach. So I prefer to work with couples because there's a lot more data to work with, and there's more things that happen in the therapy office that I can work with. And I don't just have the relationship between me and the individual, which is something, but I would much rather have, the three relationships in the room all at the same time. I find it much more effective.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I would add to that, like I do have an individual therapist, and I've seen her for years. I would say learning what we learned in couples therapy and then processing that with her was hugely impactful for me, because I would do kind of the same thing. I'd be like, I can't believe our therapist said this, blah, 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 and he's doing this and he's doing that. And then I'd be like, okay, take a deep breath. Can I look at this and see how much of it's accurate? And in the end of the session, a lot of times it would be like, okay, but they're not wrong, right? Can I handle that? And so I think that was really instrumental in me helping see myself, that self-reflection. But I don't think I would have done that if we hadn't had that couples therapy or that interaction.
It's almost like you had a thing that where the work was, and then you had to go over here and figure out how to process the work.
Right.
Right. Interesting.
Like his process was re-listen to the tapes over and over again and kind of do it on his own. And my process was I needed someone to help me through that, because I was just not as willing to listen to the tape over and over again.
Yeah. Why, James, were you willing to listen to the tape over and over again? Most people who are grappling with narcissism, whether that's diagnosable or just a trait itself, don't cross the threshold into, I want to do this work. I want to grow in this space. Like what clicked for you, or how did you decide to do that? Because let me tell you this, there are a lot of women out there right now listening to this episode going, how do I get my husband to do what that guy did? How does that happen?
That's a good question.
My husband would never listen to the tape 3 or 4 times. Like, that's absurd. Like what opened up for you?
I think one of the determining factors was that therapist cared about me. That was the degree to which she cared about me was something new that I hadn't experienced before. I'm tearing up just thinking about it. But she cared about me. And she was really blunt with me, like extremely blunt with me, but she cared about me. And there's a balance there. If I'm going to tell someone what I really think of them, I have to care about that person enough to support them while they hear that. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Which hadn't happened in the previous ones that you'd fired, the therapists that you'd fired before. There was no care.
Well, it wasn't there was no care. It's that I'm not an easy client, and they didn't look forward to working with me. We were not the couple that comes like, oh yes, the Christensens are coming in. I can't wait to see those two. That was not us. So.
Well, it makes me think of another matrix that I use sometimes, and it's the idea that a therapist needs to be able to use truth and love. Like truth without love is abusive, and love without truth is just convenient, Neither truth nor love is, we're not even in a relationship, but truth and love is where change can really happen, both, let's say, in a therapeutic relationship, but I think also in the marriage. Like the two of you probably have learned a little bit about how to stand up for each other, I would imagine, given the journey that you've been on, with both truth, this is what I'm really thinking, but also love, meaning can I talk to you about it in a careful way? I think you've already kind of painted that picture, James, a little bit earlier.
Well, and I think like he's talked about how love is on a spectrum, right? Caring is on a spectrum. It's not this black or white. I either do or I don't. And that was something really helpful for me, because I looked at that and I was like, he would paint me in this picture that made it sound like I didn't care about him. And I did, but I didn't care enough to do certain things, right? And so there really is a spectrum of, can I care about this person and not care about them at the same time? Can I hold both truths? And then what am I going to do about that? Do I care enough to do something about it, or am I just going to sit there and be like, screw you, I don't want to do that?
Yeah. I think anytime you get into a situation where it's you do or you don't care about me, like it's binary, then you're missing something. Like anytime I get into like, this is either that or that, I'm like, something's missing, some data somewhere where we don't have. This has been fascinating. I love talking to therapists about therapy, but is that what you wanted to come on and talk about? What did you guys have anything you wanted to talk about as you answered all my questions? Like, what's on your mind?
Great. Yeah. You're an RLT therapist, aren't you? Aren't you
I am,
real guy? Yeah. So that's a very close cousin to crucible therapy, to what we do.
Okay.
So it's very close.
Yeah. I came up through the Gottman Institute. So I was, I'm certified Gottman therapist. So I have all this research, kind of empirical data side of the equation. And that's important. It's valuable. I think people ought to know what the research says. I think you ought to have almost like a relationship 101 that everybody is required to take in college. But you guys know that you tools, which the Gottman Institute has tons of, and they're amazing, are useless if you put them in the hands of people who are incapable of using tools, or people who are inclined to weaponize those tools. And so part of what I think relational life therapy does, and maybe the Crucible method is it gets underneath kind of what is keeping me from being effective in using these tools? What is keeping me from being able to use them with care? And so, yeah, I've enjoyed kind of adding that into my kind of portfolio. And, couples come in across the big spectrum, and not every method is right for every couple. I'm always like, what's best for the couple? And a high conflict couple is really different than a couple who's just coming in looking for, let's say, more intimacy,
Yes.
Do you like that work? Do you like the high conflict work?
I don't really use that.
Does it happen to be your wheelhouse, or is it something that you enjoy?
I do enjoy it a little bit. I like the excitement of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I do therapy is that if the couple is not in conflict, I introduce conflict because conflict leads to growth.
Yeah, it is on your website.
It's just like, they're coming to me for a reason. You're not going to get to where you want to go without the courage to have the conflict necessary. So it's about courage and saying what you really think and revealing your true self to your partner. It's difficult. We learn not to do it for a reason. I just don't think that way of living is compatible with having a good marriage.
Yeah. It's almost like back to that gym metaphor. If you go to the gym and you don't hurt a little bit, you don't strain some muscles, maybe there's no growth there.
Yeah, if you just go to the recovery lounge every day.
I know.
Her gym has this recovery lounge, which is like massage chairs and a sauna, and she's like, I went to the gym. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'm at the gym. Yeah, you go to the gym on your phone, scroll on your phone for an hour, you've accomplished nothing, yeah.
And that's what we did for the first 5 years of our marriage, was recovery lounge therapy. It was, there were bits and pieces that were good and helpful for us, but they didn't change anything.
Yeah. All right. So here you are. Do you have a family? Have kids? Are they?
We have 4 kids.
Yeah. How old are they?
Between 16 and 24.
Do they know the difference between like unhealthy you and healthy you? Have they been able to observe it and appreciate it?
They've noticed.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Our family has healed significantly since he and I have healed, which is really one of my motivations for doing what I do is helping heal families and kids, and so they don't have to go through.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. There's, generational trauma is a big deal, and generational patterns, unless somebody says, nope, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do it in a different way. There's no reason not to expect your kids to struggle in, I was going to say in the same ways, but they'll find new and creative ways so that they don't have to look like you when they're struggling, because whatever I'm going to do, it's not that.
Yeah. They're going to have their own things, but if we can at least provide a good foundation, it's so much more impactful for them, because they're jumping off of a higher board than we were. And hopefully their kids will jump off a higher board, and they'll keep figuring this out, and it just keeps improving things.
That's lovely. Very cool. Well, listen, thank you so much for talking to me about all this. I think it's going to be a really helpful episode for folks. Is there anything else that you want to talk about or ask about before we shut it down?
No. You can look me up. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the good things. And
cool. How do we do that?
Well, my website is jameslmft.com, and you can usually on most of the platforms, if you search for James Christensen Therapist, you'll find me.
Right on. Cool. I'm not a marketing guy, but you can have that marketing tip for free where you come in and I'll help you have more conflict, like on the front splash page of your website, and see if it drives traffic
into your relationship. I'll try that one.
Sign me up.
Are you fighting now? I can make it worse.
Sometimes it does go that way. So at least initially.
To be fair, and I've heard you say it's not worse, it's more. It's more and better.
Yeah.
It's better, when people have conflict that goes well, you get more intimacy on the other side. You get,
exactly.
When I'm public speaking, I always say you get makeup sex, and makeup sex is the best sex, because it says we've come through something to something closer than whatever we had before. So that you can have that one. I'll help you have makeup sex. You can put that on your.
It's effective conflict. So
on your website,
absolutely.
Right
as opposed to pointless conflict.
Yeah, I got you. Thanks so much for visiting with me, you guys. It was a delight to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great talking to you too.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, I really want to thank James and Molly for coming on the podcast. If you're in Sacramento and looking for a therapist, check them out. They've done really good work, which is always a sign, I think, of a therapist who can do good work with you. Check him out. He is on Instagram. We're on Instagram. You can check us out at Marriage Therapy Radio. Please follow us over there. You can also follow me on my Substack, which you can find by my name, or you can go to stuffiwrite.com. I'm just about finished with this book, which means I'm going to go over there and start exercising my writing muscles. Substack is a cool space to be right now. There's a lot of thought leaders who are saying interesting things. They're not just chasing clicks; they're chasing, impact and intrigue. And I've read a couple of really interesting articles lately that have just made me feel smarter. So I encourage you to look over in that direction. If you have the time, go ahead and leave a 5-star review for Marriage Therapy Radio over at Apple Podcasts or at Spotify. It just helps us continue to bring you quality interviews like this one with James and Molly. Thanks again for having them on, and thank you for the time and attention you're putting into making your relationship better today than it was yesterday.